we can't ignore what happened at the weekend against Bournemouth, so we'll have to look at that. Arsenal won, Bournemouth 2, a game that told the story of Arsenal's season, really, going ahead, then dropping points. That's now 21 points dropped from winning positions in the Premier League this season. And for you, what was the most disappointing aspect? The fact that they conceded those two goals in the way that they did, they threw the game in the way they did, or the fact that they just didn't kill the game off when they were 1-0 up?
I think it's tough to sort of pick one. I just think it's just the overall sort of combination of everything, really. It was a real bad day. It was a terrible day for Mikel Arteta, I thought. And um, as you said, the sort of tail of the season, really. Go ahead, can't kill a game off, and then just kind of find a way to concede really stupid goals as well. Which is not like Arsenal are giving up loads of opportunities every single game, but they're just finding different ways to concede just really avoidable goals, like a long throw straight to the head of the centre back who doesn't even have to jump to score the equaliser, and then even the winner came from a corner that should just never have been conceded in the first place. So they're just, it's just the way the season has gone for Arsenal. They just haven't been good enough, kind of at both ends this season. I know lots of talk has been about the forward line and not scoring enough goals, which is absolutely right. But I also think just at the back, the sort of Arsenal that we've come to know over the last couple of seasons just hasn't quite been there. They've just not been switched on for the full 90 minutes, and they've been punished for that as well.
Yeah, because previously it was like, well, Arsenal, if they're not firing in attack, they can rely on their defence to win them games. But now, like you say, it's not the case. And, that was a poor result as well in terms of their, maybe not fatal to their top five chances. They're still second, but the lead to Man City is now, I think, 3 points. Then you've got Chelsea and Newcastle only 4 points behind. Arsenal have got to play Newcastle after Liverpool, then Southampton at home, which you think would be straightforward, but with Arsenal right now, nothing is straightforward. So, I mean, is there any genuine concern from your side that Arsenal could lose a grip on this top five place?
No, I think they'll be all right. I mean, if they if they manage to muck it up from here, then they don't really deserve anything anyway. They've only got themselves to blame. But like you said, they've got the Newcastle game coming up, and whatever happens at Anfield, if Arsenal beat Newcastle on that, that's it, done and dusted in terms of Newcastle can't finish above Arsenal anymore. And that's Newcastle have got a game in between coming to the Emirates as well, so we don't know what's going to happen in that. But Arsenal know full well that if they beat Newcastle, then that's it. It's done and dusted. And they go to Southampton on the final day. And if you can't pick up 3 points from Southampton on the final day again, then you shouldn't be in the Champions League next season for a start. So I think they'll be all right. They've just put themselves in a position that they really shouldn't have been in. It should have been done and dusted a long, long time ago, but they just haven't been good enough. They haven't been, again, we go back to what we were just talking about. At both ends of the pitch, they just haven't been good enough because they've had so many opportunities to be, 10, 12, 15 points further ahead than when they are. And that's just looking back in the last 10 games, really, the amount of points that they've dropped. So they just haven't been good enough to give themselves the breathing space they really should have been able to have in these closing games of the season. And I think when the season finishes, when Arteta looks back on it, and the coaching staff look back on it, they'll look at the real regret from this last few months or last couple of months because the silly points that they've given away it just must be maddening for them. And I'm sure they'll really sort of pour over it at the end of the season and wonder quite why it's got to this stage.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that Southampton game, it would be the most Arsenal thing ever if Aaron Ramsdale had a masterclass turned into prime Manuel Neuer and denied Arsenal that Champions League place. Very fanciful scenario, of course, but speaking of fanciful scenarios, let's say the worst does come to the worst. Arsenal lose to PSG, somehow lose a grip on this top five position. Would it be fair to call Arteta's position into question, do you think?
I think it would be fair to sort of to discuss it. I don't think the club would do it. I don't think sort of internally it would be a conversation that they have. They'll certainly sit down and say this has not been a good enough season if that does come to pass. But I don't think his job would be under any pressure yet. I mean, it would just be a really, really bad season. But I think that, I'd be stunned if anything happened. But I think from a fan point of view, there'd be every right for people to sort of point fingers and ask questions and think, how have we really sort of let things slip so alarmingly this season? Because the league form has been alarming. Again, the last couple of months, it was going pretty well up to the last couple of months. and they've regressed. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You can't look at the league table, you can't look at the points tally and not come to the conclusion they've regressed. There is context to that. They have been in the Champions League, which it has taken preference. I think that's pretty obvious in terms of games. And there's been injuries and all that sort of stuff, but you've got to deal with that. And Arsenal haven't dealt with it well enough in these final 2 months. Um,
Absolutely. So now you're
yeah,
gone.
yeah, well, I just don't think that Arteta's job would come. I don't think the club would sit there and be looking at Arteta at this and thinking maybe we have to make a change. I just think that'd be too early.
Yeah, it would take something disastrous, wouldn't it, for that to
I think
excuse me.
he would be the if I think if anything was to happen in terms of the manager this summer, which I just do not see happening at all, I think it would be him rather than the club making that decision. I wonder if he'd look at it and think, "What is this? Have I taken him as far as I can go?" But again, I don't see that happening at all.